Ride the Car Guy here, and I'm going to show you how to press out a hub, a bearing, and press a bearing and hub back in. So let's just get started by saying that this is a Audi knuckle. This is a TT 2001, and I'm just going to press out the hub first, and then of course like usually happens, the bearing race is probably going to come off with it, and I'm going to have to cut that off to reuse the hub, and then we're going to have to push out the bearing, and of course you can't reuse the bearing, and that's the whole purpose of this. So I'm going to push in a new bearing and get that all set. So you want to pick up a kit like this. This is a bearing press kit, and I didn't buy this. You can just rent these for free at your local auto parts shop. I went to AutoZone and did it, and you know, why pay 60, 70 bucks when it's for free? So I'm going to need the smallest piece, and you want to assemble this here on the end. I'll show you that. Assemble just like this, and you want to rest it where it's just inside. So you want to set it right on the hub, but not on the bearing. Once you've done that, just make sure it's lined up with your press, and start pressing down until it gets close to the actual bearing press. Alright, now that it's close, you'll see that it's a little misaligned, so we're going to just scoot this a little bit. There we go. And then just make sure it's perfectly aligned, and then you can start pressing out the hub. Very slowly make contact. There we go. We're good. And now we're going to start pushing this out. Now it should go very smooth. If you're finding it to be really difficult, make sure that you're using the right press size. You could be trying to push the bearing out, and there's actually a stop ring on the outside. So if it's not going smoothly, stop and make sure you're using the right size. But then keep going, and you'll see that this is going out pretty smoothly here. It's just slowly coming out. There you go. So now that it pops, just let the rest of that fall through. Lift up the knuckle, and then now we have our hub exposed. So you can see that this race came off. It's stuck on the hub itself, and the knuckle has the rest of the bearings still in it, and of course you can see the ball bearings right there. So we're going to go over to the bench, and we're going to take this ring out. We're going to take off this race, and then we're going to push the bearing out and put a new one back in. Now we need to prep the knuckle and the hub to go in the new bearing and to put the new bearing in. So I just have a little tool here that's going to take out our snap ring. Now you're going to want to replace the snap ring. You know, it's probably going to look fine and act fine, but most of the hubs will come with them, so just replace it. Alright, so that ring is out. And now that's really all we have to do to prep the knuckle for pushing out the bearing. So what we're going to do is we'll bring it back to the press, and we'll put our plate on the back and just push the whole bearing out. So that's fine there. This, on the other hand, this is our hub, and the hub still has that outer race on it. So we need to find a way to cut this off. I'm going to try a Dremel, and basically you're just going to cut a relief cut on the actual race itself, doing your absolute best not to actually hit the hub, not to damage it if we're going to try to reuse it. So cut a relief cut, get it as thin as you can down to the bottom of the bearing, or excuse me, the hub, and then we're basically going to knock it until it cracks and have it slide off. So the cut should look something like this, and we're going to want to try to get a wedge in there and get it as deep as you can, but get a wedge in there and then try to get the actual race to crack. And then once it cracks, it relieves its tension, and then we can slide it off. Now once it broke away, mine actually started to chip and break away quite a bit, but once it broke away, it just slid right off. So all you need to do at that point is just wipe it all down, clean it, and then we'll lube it up and we'll get it ready to push into the bearing. So now we're ready to press out the bearing. And really the only things you want to make sure of is make sure you have the right size. So basically you want it to be able to pass all the way through without damaging the knuckle. And then also on the underside, make sure that you have enough space for it to come out the other end and fall out. Alright, that all looks good. Then just line up your press. Get it close again, and I think we have to come a little further this way. There we go. And then once it's there we go. Now before you start pressing, just do a quick check. Remind yourself, did I take out the snap ring? Is everything clear? Do I have the right size? And then start pressing, because if you press with the O-ring in here, you could damage the knuckle, you can damage a lot of different things in here. You don't want to have to go buy one of these. Alright, so it's going to pop out, and you're going to see that it's going to come out in one piece, and, well, the sides of this are pretty messed up, but it's generally pretty smooth. And then here's our knuckle here. All we need to do to prep this for the new bearing is just kind of take a nice sandpaper, nothing too crazy, or a wire brush, and just clean this out a little bit and lube up the sides. Now we're actually going to hammer the bearing into place. Two quick things about this. First of all, you want to make sure that you lube up the inside of the knuckle and the outside of the bearing really well. Secondly, you want to make sure if you don't have a pre-lubed bearing that you must disassemble it and pack it with lube. So just make sure of that, because if you don't grease up your bearings, you'll be doing this job again quickly, very quickly. So I'm just going to take some grease, put it on the inside of the chamber here. Right, and then the same with the bearing itself. Okay, excellent. Now just line it up as best as you can to make sure it's nice and even. And then you want to get the piece that is best fit for it from your press, which is this one here for me. Assemble. And for this, make sure that you're putting it in the correct way, meaning the way that you took it out, it needs to go back in. It only goes in one way. So we're going to hammer this in, and then we're going to put our snap ring back in. Now do the first few hits, and then make sure that it's going in straight. So just check it out from all angles, and then if it's going in straight, continue on. Alright, so now that it's in, we're just going to get our snap ring and put it back in place, and then we can just press in our hub. Alright, for this part, just get your snap ring in place, and then basically just snap it in. Push down, there we go. So you want to make sure your snap ring is seated well. So you can just take your tool, loosen it a little bit, just kind of make sure it swings and turns inside of that. And that way it's going to keep the bearing from coming out. So now all we have to do is press the hub back into this. And the only thing you want to make sure of on that is on the underside. The underside will have the race that will push right out if you don't have something supporting it. So what we can do is just have a tool here. We can set this right here like this, flip it over so it holds it in place. And when we push the hub back down on it, we're not going to push that bottom race out. Once you have that bottom race supported, you want to get your hub and make sure it lines up and get it flat. All right, so it looks like everything lines up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take some grease and we're just going to grease the interior of the bearing. Just a little bit, you don't need to go crazy. And then, obviously, the hub as well. Very good. So now, we line them up and just get a plate from your press kit that fits right on the top of the hub. And then just line it up again like last time. Do just 1 or 2 pumps. And then look below and make sure that it's going in evenly. It does. So I'm going to keep going. Go until you meet additional resistance. And then you'll also see that the piece that rotates around your speed sensor, that gets really, really close. And that's when you know you're right on back to where it was. So release that, pull this off, and now your hub assembly is ready to be reinstalled. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, put them in the comments below. Also like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you so much for watching. See you next time.